Hey guys, it's Kyle Thompson here with eXp Realty, bringing you another monthly market update, and this week we're focusing on apartments. Let's dive right in. Okay, starting off big picture. Last month, we had 70 new listings, 28 new sales. The average list price was $483,154. The average sale price was $471,452. The average sale price to list ratio was 97.37. Average days on market was 51.61. And we ended the month with an inventory of 191 units. So let's take a look at what that does for the market conditions. As always, I like to use both the monthly supply of inventory method as well as the sale to new list ratio, as I find using both measures gives a more complete picture of what's going on in the market. With that said, using the monthly supply of inventory method, we came in at 8.71 months of inventory, which puts us firmly into buyer's market. If we use the sales to new listing ratio instead, we came in at 40%, which is right on the cusp of a neutral market, but bordering on a buyer's market. Now let's take a look at the active inventory last month. New listings fell from 77 down to 70 month over month. However, sales actually increased from 22 up to 28, and expireds had a notable jump, rising from 8 in May up to 21 in June. And that is tied for the highest amount of expireds over the last 12 months. And the benchmark price for an apartment in Kamloops fell $1,800 from $374,800 down to $373,000 even. Now let's take a look at the end of month inventory. As I mentioned, we ended the month with an inventory of 191 units, which is the second highest over the last decade for this time of the year, with only 2016 having more units. And currently we are sitting about 36% above the trailing 10-year average of 140 units. Now let's take a look at new listings. So far, year to date, there's been 351 new apartment units coming on the market, which is the second highest in the last decade, with only 2021 being higher. And currently, we are sitting about 27% above the trailing 10-year average of 277. Now let's take a look at units sold. So far year to date, there's been 141 units sold, which is the second lowest in the past decade, only trailing 2020. And currently we are sitting about 18% below the trailing 10-year average of 173 units. Now let's take a look at the sales dashboard, starting off with average sale price. This table is measuring year-over-year changes, so a full year over a full year. And when looked at that way, prices are up about 2.81%, rising from 396,000 and change up to 407,000 and change. And if you take a look, you'll see that most areas of town are actually down in price, with the exception of Sun River's Sahali and the big one being Sun Peaks, which is dragging the average up. Now let's take a look at the sale to list price ratio. So all this is a measurement of how much properties are selling below the list price on average. And it's a good proxy for how much negotiating room you have when you are the buyer. Oddly enough, we are actually sitting at the highest ratio that we have in the last 12 months, rising only 0.03% month over month, so essentially flat, but that does mean that we have less negotiating room on average when you are the buyer. Now let's take a look at the sales by sub area. Once again, this table is full year over full year, and when looked at that way, sales are essentially flat, with only falling one sale from 264 down to 263. The areas that are doing well and the ones that are not is a bit of a mixed bag, so if you'd like to take a closer look, feel free to pause the video. I'm moving on to average days on market, starting off with the 10-year. So far, year to date, it's taken an average of 67 days for apartments to sell, which is about 3% above the trailing 10-year average of 65. If we take a look at the trailing 12 months instead, we see that last month, average days on market ticked up just one day from 51 up to 52, and currently we are sitting about 20% below the trailing 12-month average of 65. Finally, let's take a look at days on market by sub area. This table is full year over full year again, And when looked at that way, it's taking about 27% longer for apartments to sell in aggregate, rising from 51 in the year prior to 65 for this year. And currently, the fastest areas of town that are selling are Brock, Pineview, and North Cam, all with an average days on market of between 46 up to 49. And the areas taking the longest to sell are Dallas, Juniper, and Sun Peaks, all with an average days on market ranging between 89 up to 115 days. That's all we have for today. I really hope that you guys are continuing to get value out of these market updates. If you are, consider liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel. And if there's ever anything you want added to these updates, or maybe something that needs to be more thoroughly explained, please feel free to leave your comments or suggestions in the comment section below, and I'll get to them as soon as I am able. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.